Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Financiers Finally Finding Out Why the Conversion Rate from francs to fortnits is frighteningly feeble. Uncle Gary started a savings account and somehow managed to bring it to a negative balance episode of the Days Grimm. My name is, or rather, I am the milkman.
Yeah.
Brian Day, sir.
My name is Thomas Grimm.
Who's joining us today?
Joining us this week in the Days Grimm studio is Dr. Perry Burnett. How are you?
Doing well.
Perry, such a pleasure to meet you, brother. I've met now 3 doctors in my life, so pleasure to have you in here, sir. How are you?
Doing well. All medical doctors so far, or am I the first?
No.
Philosophy doctor.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you were born, when you got your shots for school,
Slap me on the ass.
So what other medical doctors? Or what? No, not medical. What other doctors?
It's actually really funny that you say medical doctor that way. I have a practicing physician who graduated. He went to U of E with me, and he got his medical license or, physician's license from SIU. And he just messaged us on TikTok. I sent you that screenshot.
Yeah.
Mr. Jacob, he's a good man. But I do know him. We were good friends through college. So, 2. I know I've met a third one through here. Oh, does Lori have her PhD?
I don't know.
I don't think she does. We know.
There was a doctor one time, but you were out of town that I was on. That's actually a colleague of yours.
What was that gentleman's name that I wasn't here for?
I'm blanking on his name right now. Professor of psychology.
Mm-hmm.
At USI?
Yeah. We had him on the show.
Good episode. I watched it. You crushed it, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, I think that's it.
I'll have to check that out. Is he still there at USI?
Yeah. I know 2 doctors, though. You're included. So I don't go to the doctor's office or the physician's office very often.
Perry, do you want to give our listeners like a brief elevator pitch of who you are, what you do?
Yeah, so I am a professor of economics. I teach up at University of Southern Indiana. And I've been there for about, 14, 15 years. I moved here from Colorado. That's kind of where we say we picked up our lifestyle. My wife and I, we have 5 kids. Let's see. Originally from Texas. And then went to Kansas City for a bit. Out to Colorado.
Oh,
Dang,
yeah.
that's a decent spread.
And you're not a military brat.
No.
Oh, that's wild, dude. That's a lot of moving.
Yeah, we can get into how that all happened if you'd like to.
Oh, I'd love
Or do you
to.
wanna-
But you said initially, I missed how many you've been a professor for 15 years. Is that what I heard right?
Yes.
Okay.
So this was my first job out of grad school, was here in Southern Indiana.
Okay. Where'd you get your graduate from?
So Colorado State.
Colorado State. Is that the Buffaloes? Is that the black and gold Buffaloes?
We're the Rams.
Oh, the Rams. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of Colorado University.
Yeah, Colorado University.
Close enough. Are the Rams any good at football?
If we get good, the coach gets hired to the next level of a program.
Okay.
So we had a pretty good program. I don't know. I can't remember 4 or 5. I don't know, probably 10 years ago. Who knows? I don't keep a track of that. But he got hired off into some Division I school.
Nice, dude.
And didn't work out very well. He went to Florida, actually.
Sick, dude. Are you a sports guy at all?
A little bit baseball.
Okay.
Probably my biggest sport.
Nice. Okay.
We played baseball in high school,
Yeah,
right?
I played baseball in high school.
We'll get into
Oh,
that.
yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
Before we do that, you want to
hold on. I got to know. Yankees or
that
Dodgers?
doctor.
Yankees
I
or
hate
Dodgers?
both of them.
I know. We're all so fucking
That's
sick
because
of it.
I'm from Houston, so I'm an Astro fan.
Hey, they had their run a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's all tainted.
Yeah,
but
it happens.
It happens.
You win some, you lose some. What were you going to say?
That doctor was Dr. Andy Buck.
Yeah, Andy Buck. That's his name.
Yeah, so he's a
shout out to Andy Buck.
sociologist. Sociologist. I've talked to him.
I'm so bummed I wasn't there. I have so many psychological issues. I would have loved to have talked to him.
So he's sociology.
Yeah, it was the
So he's going to talk about the environment and how it affects the personhood.
the masses and their psychological beings. Okay, I like that.
Yep. So death of the week that you picked out, I'm actually very excited. You picked a good one.
Are you pumped about this
Yeah,
one?
I just read the headline.
Now, Mr. Perry, or Dr. Perry, I'm not going to do that the whole episode, I promise. Okay, but have you watched any episodes before?
Yes.
You have. So are you familiar with the death of the week?
Yes.
So you know this can get a little rowdy. You're fully cognizant of the fact that this could get rowdy.
Okay, let's go for it.
All right,
Bring
sir, please.
The death of the week.
Oh, yeah! Here we go. This week's Death of the Week brought to you by Wayne.com. That is not a gentleman's name. That is WANE.com. One dead after minivan rear ends man on riding lawnmower. This was June 15th, 2024. Written by Marin Murphy. Let's see what's happening here. Okay. Eden, Ohio. One man is dead after being rear-ended by a minivan while driving a riding lawnmower on State Road 49 in Eden. According to a media release from the Ohio State Highway Patrol, officers were dispatched to a crash involving a John Deere riding lawnmower and a minivan on State Road 49 at 10:15 p.m. Friday. Again, this is past tense. This is June of this year. When officers arrived on the scene, they found 65-year-old Thomas S. Patterson driving a John Deere riding lawnmower southbound when he was rear-ended by a minivan driven by Gene M. Paul. Also sounds like an older gentleman. Patterson was ejected from the lawnmower and pronounced dead at the scene. The John Deere tractor was operating on the roadway without rear lights, but it is unclear what caused the crash. The Ohio State Highway Patrol reminds drivers to always wear their safety belts and to never drive distracted or impaired. The cause of the crash remains under investigation. Real short and sweet.
Seatbelts help save lives, but the John Deeres don't come with seatbelts.
I love that they said ejected from the lawnmower. Like he's housed in something, you know what I mean? Yeah, and then I made a funny reminder, folks. Mowing the lawn can be a real killer, especially when a rogue minivan decides to crash the party. It's a grim reminder to look both ways, whether you're trimming grass or navigating life's absurdly deadly minivan moments. Yeah.
Wear your seatbelt.
That's pretty much the jit. Well, yeah, if you're on a lawn... Dude, don't take a lawnmower on the fucking highway.
Or wire in some lights. Even bicyclists, when we were training for the triathlon, you have to put blinking red lights on the back of your bike so you don't get hit.
Yeah, and they still clap cyclists like it's their job. Dude, have you seen this shit before where guys are driving these little lawnmowers on the road? What are they
my grandfather had a electric wheelchair.
Okay.
He didn't get hit, but
thank God. Jesus Christ.
He would drive onto the roads, could care less if he got hit.
Dude, there's guys by the
they
mall.
will move for me, right? I'm going in. I'm old. It's my time. You move out of my way.
I'm
your
problem.
He never got hit. Yes, absolutely.
Dude, there's like
right in the
two
middle.
handicapped people by the mall that have electronic wheelchairs, and they'll cross Green
care.
River. They do not
care.
I brought this up on a podcast, and I don't know if it's aired or it has not aired, but I told you I witnessed my very first little rascal scooter locomotive train. So there was a young lady in a wheelchair behind a little rascal scooter, and she was, I don't know what skateboarders call it when they hang onto the car, but she was like, I think it's skidding, but she was like skidding off of this guy's little rascal. It was the wildest fucking thing ever. And over on, of course, Jimtown, of all places.
Nice. You should probably see that at like Walmart.
They were probably
One
running
person with a motorized car, somebody else in a wheelchair behind them.
She was in a rush,
One of my favorite videos are the ones where like the 5-year-olds are in those electric cars and then just take out their siblings.
Yeah, love that.
Just roll those things over.
God, I could watch so many of those. I love the little...
especially if you put like a GoPro like you did on the dog.
Oh my God, yeah, dude, I forgot about that. The dog with the GoPro, yeah, and if you did that on a damn little, whatever you call those little cars.
Like RC car?
Yeah, a little RC car. That'd be fucking tight, dude.
So, Perry, you were born in Texas.
Is that where you were born?
Yes.
Born and bred Texan.
Born Texan.
Okay. Nice.
Now, do you know Texas as well as Virginia are the two proudest states that people come from?
No one is proud of being from Virginia. I just want to throw that out there. I've met like 2 people from Virginia, and they're both like, I'm from Ohio.
I think the Virginia people just come from like history stuff.
I'm
I
mistaken.
feel like if you're one of the original like 13 colonies, you're going to have a little bit of...
West Virginia. I stand mistaken. I stand corrected.
Sense.
It was West Virginia.
Wasn't it all Virginia at one point?
I don't know. I'm not that much of a history buff.
I just want to point out that I'm the least educated guy on paper in the room.
Yeah, that checks out,
You got
man.
street smarts.
Maybe.
You need a dime bag. Hit my dude up. No, I'm joking.
No, please don't.
Anyways, yeah. So born and bred in Texas. What was that like? How long did you live there? What was like growing up
Good.
in Texas?
I mean, we were from, let's see, the outskirts. We were from a suburban family, so we grew up in the suburbs. We didn't really get the Texan accent. We didn't really have the country music. I didn't really get introduced to country music till high school when all the baseball buddies were listening to country music to and from.
Checks out. So, and suburbs of what? We didn't say what whereabouts in Texas. Basically,
north,
its own country.
North Houston. So North Houston.
I ask everybody that's from Texas, did you see any tigers other than in the zoo?
No.
Okay.
Why?
Texas has more tigers in captivity than there is in the rest of the world.
In captivity.
I think it's a specific kind of tiger, but that is, you could Google it so we don't. Someone is going to comment us one day and be like, you guys are fucking stupid. That's not real at all. So let's Google it, because I don't think I've ever asked you to Google it. But yeah, so the theory is, we've heard through social connections that,
Texas has more tigers in captivity. Wild.
It doesn't say what kind of tigers, just tigers in general, just all tigers.
There are fewer than 3,000 wild tigers, but more kept as pets across zoos in Texas alone.
That's kind of shitty, dude. But whatever. They're cats. At the end of the day, like, I can't stand cats. Oh, this lady. Here we fucking go. God.
Anyways, not to get off on that.
It was that
so
bitch, Carol
how old were you, or like, how old were you when you left Texas?
Yeah.
Let's see, 20.
Okay, so you
Maybe.
at least experienced high school through there. So like,
all the way
you
through.
got to experience good barbecue.
Yes.
No real winter.
No winter.
And you're not a football fan, which is odd coming from the state of Texas.
Kind of. I mean, my dad went to A&M. My granddad went to UT Austin.
Okay.
So kind of picked up some college football. I mean, the Aggies did win. They beat the Tigers.
Yep.
Yesterday, whatever
Shout
it
out
was.
to the
today.
Tigers again.
Bring that back. I mean, we had the Oilers, right? We had the Houston Oilers.
Yeah.
And then they moved right to Tennessee.
Yeah, Nashville.
And so, you your home team is gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of Texan fan, but
yeah,
it's not the, homegrown.
What are what was growing up like? Just kind of through, like, up into your high school years, what are one of your most memorable things about being a Texan from birth to your 20s?
Yeah, we can jump in. Let's see. Nothing, I mean, this high school I went to was about 3,000 people. So it was a huge high school.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
And so everything was pretty normal growing up until I got to college. So the idea was, where do you go to college, or what do you do after high school? I don't know. Go to college. Not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
I had the choice between Texas A&M and University of Texas at Austin. I'm like, might as well go to some big state school.
Yeah.
I had to write an essay to get into Texas A&M. To get into University of Texas, I just had to take the SAT and tell them how many years I lived in Texas.
So you went that way.
So I didn't even write an essay to get into A&M.
I would have done the same thing, dude. I would have done the same thing.
This is how prepared I was to go to college the first time around.
Yeah, post further your education. And no, good for you.
You actually did. So like when you signed up for college, you didn't know undecided, I think what they call it.
Yes, probably the worst decision that colleges make is allowing students to be undecided.
Didn't you say you took like a year of botany?
Well, so the reason is that if you drop out of college and you're undecided, there's no cost for you to drop out. You're not giving up on anything. You're not losing anything. You didn't fail at anything. Yeah. And so therefore you're like, I tried it, and then I'm just going to drop out because I was undecided anyway. I think maybe going in undecided, but maybe after that first semester, at least by the first year, should have a student declare what major they have. Then that allows for them a little bit of direction as well. Because if you're in college, you don't know what you're doing. You better have some direction.
Let's cut it like it is, man. 18-year-olds don't know their elbows from their assholes. They're just trying to make sense of the world around them still. You know what I mean? And for us to even be like, hey, man, decide what you want to be for the rest of your life right now. Like, that's overwhelming for an 18-year-old. So I can see why there's so much lack of urgency or massive indecision. But
they're recommending now that you take a year off before you go to college.
They do that in like Europe, I believe.
Yeah, from what they call university to university, I think is like their high school.
No, university is their college.
Well, they have one of whatever, but yeah, they do typically take a year off. You are correct, which I think is a good thing. I mean, because then you can go get a job, or you can be a bum for a year, or do whatever.
You spent your entire conscious life basically in school in a system or an institution.
Yeah.
And then you have no idea what you're doing, and now you have to decide on.
It's very
who
Rage
you wanna
Against
be.
the Machine of you, the system. You're in the system. I'm telling you, man, it's the system. No, that's pretty sick though. So you wind up graduating your undergrad from UH, right?
Nope.
No. Oh shit. So where'd you go?
So then I got to University of Texas.
Longhorns.
Longhorns.
Got that one right. I know that one too. I used to play them when was that the NCAA? Yeah, I used to play it on instead of Madden. Yeah, I would play as the Longhorns.
Oh yeah, dude, they're looking good this year.
Yeah,
but you go there what, sophomore year?
Went there freshman year, sophomore year, maybe sophomore year. So the first year I lived with a buddy coming out, and we were close. We had a close-knit group. When we get to University of Texas, there was other influences besides, our little hometown. I grew up with a pretty sheltered life. And so you combine uncertainty with other kinds of substances.
Yep.
And you can spiral out of control really quickly.
Nice, dude.
So I spiraled out of control relatively quickly. After that first year, he dropped me as a roommate the very beginning of the semester, so I didn't have anybody to live with.
He was just tired of your shit?
We grew apart. It was getting pretty rough. And then I had to live by myself, so I had to pick up a little efficiency by myself.
Nice.
And that was the hardest year of my life. That was a year in which was basically at the edge of suicide. And it would wake up in the middle of the night, just cry all night long, then go to sleep during the day.
Christ.
Death was all around me. So this
just
was
people dying?
Just the
friends were dying?
The existential reality of death. So the fact that no matter what I did, I was going to die. No matter what I did in terms of living, I could go and graduate, work for some company, and then die. I could go hang out with my friends who were no longer my friends, and then die. So in other words, there was no way for me to go except death.
Die.
Yeah, there was no way out. So it was closing closer and closer and closer into me, and there was no way out of death.
People are so concerned about this existentialism. Like they always say, oh, don't dwell on death and all that. I think it's fucking sick. Do it all the time. I wake up in a existential crisis often. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you can make it through your day with that. And that probably helped form you or helped shape you once you got out of your weird little hump or whatever. But
I'm still not out of it.
Right. But existentialism is important because it's like a reality check. It's like
a perspective shift.
Yeah, it keeps you from thinking oh, I'm in a fairy tale land and everything is for my benefit and nothing bad can ever happen to the ones that I love. And it's no, don't be a cunt, for a lack of a better word. Don't be so arrogant. You're going to die. We all get our turn. It's just it keeps you
I don't know if Bill Gates is maybe trying against that, but
Dying?
Just throwing it out there. Yeah, I'm sure Bill Gates doesn't want to die. Well, who's the other guy running shit?
Elon? I don't know.
No.
Bezos?
All of them? No, we're getting off on a side.
Yeah, we are.
Here.
No, but that's a good thing.
We get into transhumanism. Yeah, transhumanism is all about.
It probably helps shape you, though. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is the one major event in my life that has shaped the entire rest of my life. So after that, from that day, I've been trying to find a reason to live. So every day I wake up and try to find a reason to continue living.
Okay. And that's an existing thing happening still currently?
Every day. Yeah, all the time.
Every day.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
It's yogi in a way.
Yeah, it really does kind of makes your life like a puzzle almost. You're constantly
trying to find, is there a reason to continue living?
Yeah, dude, I get it. No, that's sick.
And I have not found a permanent reason for that, but I have found enough reasons to say, okay, one more day.
That's what it's all about, one step forward. But honestly...
because you can't technically plan for the future. Because you don't know if it's going to be there or not.
That's a valid point as well. So
I just go off the cuff.
Yeah, just rip
This
it.
is the whole life.
Grip it and rip it, dude.
Yeah. I'll deal with it when it comes up.
So you have your kind of panic mode bad year, and that was sophomore year?
Junior year, right?
Junior year, sophomore year. So then how does junior and senior year wrap up? Do you stay at Texas?
So what happened is I had found religion at that time.
Nice.
Was how I continued to live. During that time, my mom had kind of a renaissance. We didn't grow up in the church at all. We were kind of, Easter, Christmas type of things. There'd be times where we hit church every once in a while for a certain period of time. And my mom is deeply religious, but not church religious.
Yeah. She's like potluck religious. She's like, let's go.
Well, she's like, let's do it, but let's do it right. And this isn't right. This church kind of stuff.
I agree with that. Yeah,
is not deep enough or whatever it is. So she's I'm a combination of my mom and my dad.
Okay.
So my mom believes everything, and my dad believes nothing. So I have both of those
combo,
in me.
dude.
Yes,
it's a sick combo.
My dad will break down everything that you come in contact, like reality shows. It's like, that's bullshit.
He's extremely
reality
tangible.
shows don't exist. It's all fake. Everything's queued up. Everything's there. There is no such thing as a reality show. My mom will believe all sorts of things. Everything is true.
I would love to meet your dad the same moment that he meets David Blaine. God, that'd be a fucking circus show. That'd be fucking sick.
Just like at a magician show, and he's like yelling, like heckling a magician. Yeah. Just be like, "Oh, I know how you did that," and just like telling all their tricks.
Well, I want to know because David Blaine's so good. All right, I digress.
Yeah.
No, but that's interesting though. So,
did you end up finishing college in Colorado? Is that where?
Okay, so then my mom she sent me Bible after Bible after Bible. So I had a big stack of Bibles, and she said, just read one.
Were they all the same translation?
No, all the different ones. She's like, try this one, try that one, try a different translation. And so it would be at the middle of the night, I would pick one up and just started reading it. So instead of crying and...
Random page or from section to section?
Starting the New Testament was the idea.
Okay.
And so I started the New Testament, picked it up randomly. Matthew, Mark, Luke... and I'm like, this is all the same. It's the same story over and over again.
Essentially, yeah.
And it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and then you get to John. And I didn't really realize what I was reading. In other words, it wasn't a conscious experience at that time, but it gave me life. The shadows went away when I was reading it. It wasn't consciously what I was reading, but it kept me alive. So in other words, it kept me for one more day alive. And so I continued to read it and read it and read it and read it. And my mom, after that time, I went back home and was working at Fuddruckers. What have you been there?
Nice,
good
dude.
Stuff, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love the old Fuddruckers.
And so it was like, what do I want to do with my life? I have no idea. One of my managers got stabbed in going out to her car.
Jesus.
And so I'm like, this isn't really what I want to do. So my mom's like, why don't we try to Bible school? Before that, we were going to our traditional church that we went into, a Southern Baptist church. And it wasn't really feeding me at the time. It wasn't really like...
Those are interesting. Have you ever been to one, Brian?
Oh, yeah. My wife was raised in a Southern Baptist.
Yeah, they're just like, it's very structured. It's the same thing every week. It's, hey, this lottery ticket
very cerebral.
numbers of
very
hymns.
Cerebral, very like intellectual.
And then at the end of every one, there's like a calling.
A calling on everyone.
Isn't Southern Baptist... It's like the closest to Catholicism, if I'm not mistaken, right? They're very like... Am I thinking of a different Christianity form that's like super like step by step by step? I think they even kneel on the little...
No, not Southern Baptist.
Is that not Southern Baptist? I'm thinking of... Are they the ones that dance with snakes?
I think it's maybe Episcopal or Methodist, maybe?
That's another one, but it isn't like the snake people.
Southern Baptist is straight up like intellectual theology.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
And it's all about the word,
pragmatic approach.
all about
I like that.
All about that. And so she's like, let's try this other church across town. It used to be a Baptist church, and they've kind of had an experience that they do things a little bit differently there. So we went over to the other side of town, and I walk in, and people are raising their hands, falling on the floor. They're rolling around on the floor. Yeah, holy rollers going on in there. And I'm like, I'm walking into a cult.
Is this Pentecostal?
Is a cult. No, they were Baptist. So they were Baptist. They were doing this straight up intellectual sermon. and they had kind of an encounter with God, as they would call it. And so they kind of completely transformed the way that they would worship. And yeah, they went into more of an expressive, emotional type of worship as opposed to an intellectual type of worship. So yeah, raising hands, people falling on the floor. I was scared out of my mind, but I would just look at the words on the screen, and they looked legit. They looked like they weren't singing anything out of the ordinary, heretic, from what I understood it. Didn't have a lot of devil worship in it. I'll get to that later on with maybe deathcore.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
But so we left. My girlfriend at the time said, I'm never going back there again. And I was like, my mom's like, you want to go back? I said, yeah, I'll go back.
I'll check it out.
I'll go back. There was something there that I needed that I didn't know I needed.
But you could feel it? Like you knew that you needed
in other words,
something?
there was something real there that I needed to understand what it was.
Okay.
So we can get into the theory here. There's another podcast I've done with that, Zach Parsons.
Oh, sick.
But anyway, so I went going back and looking at that, I had an awe experience. There was an experience of awe. And so,
the way you define awe in this.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes here. Define awe for me.
So awe is an encounter with an order that is bigger than yourself. An order or a pattern that exists outside of yourself that is bigger than yourself.
Could it be like a mass of individuals bigger than yourself is what you mean? Okay.
No, I mean, well, yeah. So, it could be, yeah. The idea if a president of a country were to come to you and be in the room with you, you probably experience a type of awe.
You would be in awe
because it's not the person; it's what that person is representing, which is a pattern of existence that is far bigger than you, that you don't really even comprehend is affecting you, but it's right there in person.
And it's in front of you.
It's in front of you.
That's your definition of awe.
So seeing the sunset, seeing nature is a way people experience awe, because you're going, wow, this is amazing. What is this?
Yeah.
So it is whenever you have that kind of wow experience or an overwhelming experience, that is a state of awe in which you are encountering a pattern outside of yourself, which is larger than yourself.
The only argument I would have here is, what about someone who's really just stupid? You know what I mean? Like a really dumb person.
Then they're like in a state of more awe. They probably have more bliss.
So death is a type of awe, and maybe you're talking like death. I mean, you experience dead. You go to a funeral. Mm-hmm. You see somebody die. We don't see people die in the world. Talk about death.
Yeah.
Maybe this is part of it. But we don't grow up on farms as much anymore. We don't experience death. And so it's becoming even more of a shock when we actually see something die.
Okay, yeah. I get on board with that.
I mean, what happens after death, right? That's the great mystery of humanity.
I can't wait to find out. I'm so fucking pumped about it, dude. I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, you're lucky I'm still here. I swear to God.
It is the great mystery.
Ready to tap out at any given moment.
So there is something, right, that is outside of yourself, because it makes you think about consciousness. Like, what is consciousness?
I know. I look at my dog.
Why am I alive?
And I wonder about how conscious, like, my dog
Without
is.
getting too deep, I just want to say, likely, it's all a simulation. Let's just throw that out there. No, but okay.
Did you watch that Rogan podcast this week talking about it?
Fucking slow down with your Rogan shit. All right. So now that you've defined awe, you said that there was something that you felt that you needed to go back there for. So you go back, and then that was when you experienced this moment of awe. Now, what was that moment? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so what you do with a moment of awe in terms of how you're supposed to work, and this is kind of the interpolation of the individual. This is why you exist as an individual, are these different states of awe. You do have a cultural aspect to it, which can also bring awe into it. Because the culture is an order outside of yourself, which is greater than yourself. But the idea is that you have this experience of awe, and then you experience wonder. Now, what wonder is what wonder is supposed to do, is a reflection on your experience of awe. You're supposed to take time and reflect on it. And so you're going, what was that? Why was that so amazing? And so that's kind of what happened after the church experience. Again, this is looking back after my understanding of theory on it. But looking back, I was, you're like, what is it? What is it? I want to go back. I need to experience that again. I experienced something. I don't know what it is. And so when you reflect on that, and that's being fidelitous to that experience of awe. So when you have an experience of awe, you want to be fidelitous to it. say faithful, but the idea is you want to be fidelitous to it. Hold to it. Find out what it is. Don't let it go.
What's the difference? Fidelitous.
It's the same. I mean, faithful is typically just a more modern word that we kind of talk about with loyalty, or it's a more common word. So fidelity is more of a nuanced word.
Okay, I got you.
I was going to say, did seminary school lead to this reflection?
No, I didn't go to seminary.
Okay.
But I went to a Bible school, but it wasn't seminary. But yeah, so I went back, and then that brings, after you reflect on it a little bit, then you experience curiosity. Curiosity is the question-asking moment to that. Then that brings hope. Now you're saying, I can experience that myself. I can be a part of this pattern that exists outside of myself. And now what I do is I get into flow, which is Mahai Csikszentmihalyi's work. He's a psychologist. And that's the idea of incorporating this pattern into yourself by moments of flow. So, and then you become a more complex person because you've experienced that pattern and it's been integrated into yourself. And then as a more complex person, you're able to experience deeper in states of awe. You go through this cycle over and over, which produces character, and then that character is allowing you to then make exchanges, getting back to economics, because the goal in life is to make exchanges with other people.
There's a fun quote, that book, Trust, that I just read. We Google Trust. It's Hernandez I don't want to say his name wrong because he's a Pulitzer Prize fucking winner. He's kind of a big fucking deal. And I want you to see this cover. So if you see it again, go, you had it, that first one. This guy. Hernan Diaz. Great book. But there's a fun quote in there where there's a young woman talking about finances and how she related everything in life to an exchange. So we go to sleep to gain energy so we can wake up the next day and exchange that energy for functionality or progress or whatever. When you look at it that way, and she was essentially trying to generalize the financier in this portion of the novel, and by generalizing it, kind of explaining why she was so good at what she did. But it's funny that you bring that up, the exchange, which kind of brings us back to economics. But do you agree with the fact that almost everything in life is really just
economics?
Is really just economics, and for one to be good at economics, you almost have to be.
Into psychology.
You almost have to have a grand scheme understanding of just life in general. Not necessarily like what this business does, but like, okay, well, give me a general synopsis of what it is that you do. What raw materials are you using? Where do those come from? But you kind of just have to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig.
So that is the business side of economics.
Right.
So economics, I would say, is the study of human decisions.
Okay.
So it's how humans make decisions. So we really are a liberal arts. We're a social science. We are like psychology, sociology. We study humans.
Okay, that's good.
It's like if you had 3 items you really want and you only have money to buy one, what's the reasoning on what one of the three
that you
choose?
pick? Okay.
Right? Essentially?
Yeah, it's decisions. How do we make decisions? How do we decide on what decision to make? We can't have everything, so how do we decide, given the limited amount of resources, particularly time?
Yeah.
How do we decide what to do with our time? How do we decide what to do with our money? How do we decide what to do with our body? Basically, right, any kind of decision, how do we allocate the resources that we have is what economics is about.
And that leads to a good way. I just really like the fact that you brought up exchange, because it just dawned on me that there was a portion of that book where she explains everything is an exchange in life. And I think that is interesting because not enough people look at life that way, and they often should. Well, like go back to your glasses thing.
My glasses, the cups. Perry's heard it in estuary. Perry attends estuary with me. We've had Zach on and talked about estuary on the pod before. But I was going to say, Perry has one that I've liked, and it's the 10,000 days. And you want to explain the 10,000 days to Brian?
So your last 10,000 days.
Yeah.
The idea is that
mine has already started.
So
I don't think so.
The first time, it might.
See, we don't know yet.
Yeah, exactly. But the idea is that I heard the first 10,000 days, and people would celebrate the first 10,000 days of their life. So people celebrate birthdays, but people would celebrate this first 10,000 days, which is about 27 years plus a few months, is when you get to your first 10,000 days. And so, given kind of my view of death constantly, it is, okay, what does my last 10,000 days look like? In other words, if I were going to start now how would I live my last 10,000 days on this earth? And so you're kind of flipping it around besides looking behind you as we would in the first 10,000 days. What have I accomplished is what is the 10,000 days going forward?
What more can I do?
Or, how should I live in my last 10,000 days? What does a high quality life look like? Again, if we're going to go back to the Bible in terms of Ecclesiastes, everything turns to shit.
I don't know what Ecclesiastes is.
It's a Paul book.
Oh,
Well, it's an Old Testament book.
Oh, never mind.
But
not
basically,
a Paul book.
everything fades, everything dies, nothing matters. You're going to be forgotten. Your name's going to be forgotten. Everything that you try to plant and garden is going to die.
Everything I struggle with in life.
Do you think that's why Hitler did what he did?
I don't know. Let's not go into this.
Okay, all right, we'll leave it alone.
I was gonna say,
But
I was gonna say, does economics lead you to thinking about like the pros and cons of every single decision, or like, can you turn that part of your brain off? Because you see it with like your takes on like religion or topics of like pros and cons,
like
of
computistic approach. Yeah, like
So what happened for going back to my story is eventually I did go to a little Bible college. It wasn't really a seminary. And was there for a certain period of time. I thought I was going to be a pastor. Thought I was going to get into the church.
Is that what a Bible college is for? To turn somebody into a pastor?
Pretty much.
Or can you go there?
You can go there for missionaries. You can go there for different kinds of...
You get a degree in botany from there?
I'm sure some Bible colleges, you can get degrees.
I guess I just don't know what a Bible college is. It must be like a southern thing.
There's some there's some that are larger, like universities, that you can have all sorts of different kinds of degrees.
Oh, okay, neat.
Mine was like 300 people, maybe 100 people.
Okay, so you knew everybody.
Kansas City.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sick, dude.
And so that's why I went to Kansas City to begin with. But then I got into the church.
Did you get to experience a winter in Kansas City? Was that your first winter?
Yeah, it was more ice there, so you don't really get snow. I didn't really get snow until Colorado.
You're far enough
but you
from
do
the
a lot of
lakes, yeah.
ice. You get ice storms there. So yeah, then I'd gone to Kansas City. I was going to be a pastor. I was an intern for a college ministry at a 3,000-member church, so it was a huge college ministry. It was the size of a church.
Yeah.
But I had a guy over me who was more concerned about working his way up the church ladder, maybe to get to be a senior pastor somewhere, the business side of church.
Yeah.
And I was kind of disgusted with that whole approach.
The political
the business side of church. Let's get butts in seats.
Yeah.
The idea. How do we get more butts in seats? How do we get more people into the building?
Like, guys,
and they've never read the part of the Bible where Jesus goes in and turns over all the altars.
I'm baffled by some of these mega churches. I'm honestly shocked they don't have like Snoop Dogg doing like halftime performances or something. I mean, legitimately, some of these stadiums. Who's that rich guy the guy that flies around in private jets?
A ton of them.
The guy that found money in the walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pastor who's like, he's just a disgustingly millionaire rich person, but like he runs several of these mega churches, TV programs. Just baffled. I feel like
I wonder they should cut it off, pop cap, just like Estuary.
You're losing the sentiment. You're losing.
It becomes a show.
Yeah, it's shit. It just drives me up the wall. Like that's why I'm.
So
not
that puts
active.
a bad taste in your mouth with.
So I agree with you. I would
with the business side of it. And so I had dropped religion for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm done with it. And that's when I found economics. So after that, I said, I got to do something with my life. I was going to just major in business, and that's when I found economics. And economics I call it my social gospel. It allowed me to understand the world, because religion allows you to understand the world, which is the awe experience. What is this order that exists? And so therefore I had another awe experience with economics is what is this? How is this? Why is this allowing me to understand everything? And so, yeah, I dropped it for a number of years. And it wasn't until maybe, I can't remember, 6, 7, 8 years ago that there was some new development in economics about how the human makes decisions that allows me to then bridge back my religion and my economics to be a more cohesive unity of perspective. Because before I'd have to kind of keep them compartmentalized because economics was rational decision making and religion was irrational. So there was no way to actually bring those together in any way. Yeah, because they were completely different ways of thinking. But given the new ways in which economics blending with psychology has produced new versions of what humans do, that then allowed me to bridge those two back together. So, for example, behavioral economics is traditionally economics says that you are going to approach the world in a rational way. You have your cost and benefits. You have your taste and your preferences. You know you like broccoli more than peas, which is why you buy broccoli at the store. And you have all these preferences in order, and therefore you make decisions and allocation of resources that way. You have perfect information. Now, again, psychology came along and said, no, that's not true. There's no way humans have perfect information. We're limited creatures, right? We are not only limited, we also are limited in we have these visceral states. We have emotions and visceral states. We get hungry. We get thirsty.
We get hangry.
We get horny. We make different decisions, right, when we reach the limit of our being.
You're also now the first doctor I've ever met that has used the word horny in my presence. Yeah, I'm here for it. Brian Day has checked into the chat. I am actively participating. No, I'm joking. And then also like health conditions. Like we have these flux and flows of health conditions. Like, oh, well now
we get hot, we get cold.
I've had too many carbohydrates. Now I need to go on this weird diet.
Yeah, I had a bunch of sugar.
Yeah, now
would you say that's the difference in textbook economics versus like just real world economics?
Well, so that was the move of behavioral economics came out. And so behavioral economics came out and re-questioned all the assumptions that traditional economics was making. And they're saying, yeah, we need to incorporate a limited human as opposed to a all-knowing human. Now, again, traditional economics knew we weren't all-knowing, but that was the assumption we made to make our models easier.
That we had perfect information
every time. Yeah, that we had perfect information. So behavioral economics comes along and says, no, you don't have perfect information, you have limited information, and then that's going to affect your decision-making. So yeah, whenever you reach a limit to your being, you're going to these costs and benefits are going to spike in different ways based upon how close you are to that limit.
Okay, so you've been doing this for about 15 years now, studying economics and professing it, so on and so forth. Well, I guess you've been doing economics for longer than that because you've got a 4-year degree in it, right? Or no, how does that work? How many?
Yeah, it's like 6 years after your
6 years, all said and done, dedicated to economics.
6 years graduate school.
Okay, dedicated strictly to say almost basically 2 decades. You've been doing this. In that time, short of this, like you're saying, this blend, you were able to blend the two together. What other like major world changes have happened since, I guess, what would have been 2008 when you started at this economics?
So let me finish how I blended it together because we haven't got quite there yet.
Okay.
So there's a new movement in economics in which case humans are self-delusion cultivators. So in other words, what we had assumed both in terms of traditional economics and behavioral economics is information was good. We want information, right? The more information, the better. The more information, the better, right? But then behavioral said, well, you can't get all the information you need. Well, then a new version of the human came out in which we are self-delusion cultivators. What that means is that all information is not good. We don't actually seek perfect information. We don't want good information. We want biased information.
We want our information.
We want information that is going to make us happy and make us feel better about ourselves. Because information, right, cost-benefit analysis. I don't want information that tells me I'm ugly.
Yeah.
I don't want information that tells me I'm bad. I don't want information that tells me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So what we do is we reject that piece of information. Now, again, under normal rational decision-making would go, wouldn't you want to know? Yeah. Wouldn't you want to know if you're ugly? Right? I mean, because then you wouldn't be shooting after and going for the 9s and the 10s.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I do this in my class, and so we have students rate themselves in terms of how physically attractive that they are, and everybody turns around and rates themselves as a 7. Everyone's slightly above average. So in other words, everyone's going to rate themselves as slightly above average. That's the delusion that we all have. We're a little bit better looking than we think we are, a little bit smarter than we think we are, a little bit more capable than we think we are.
A little more dumber than we think we are.
Yeah, that says something about you and I, because we are awfully humble here. We like to call ourselves stupid very often. So I think that would make me feel better if I knew the real answer. You know what I mean?
What I was going to say, too, is like Perry's gotten a lot of good feedback like from students over the years. Just that, like, you got them involved, I think, more than like your normal teacher does.
It depends.
That's what I follow. I follow a high school teacher. He's an art teacher, and like he won't post kids' names, but he'll like quote quotes or like, "This is what happened in class today."
Yeah,
and like you can tell that like one, he's really involved with his students in the school, but you can also tell that like some of these kids can be a little more annoying because you're so close.
Yes.
Also, I want to ask, has any weird lingo appeared in any papers? Like I have another buddy that teaches high school history, and one of his like kids in the paper was like, he's like, the Soviet Union would have stood a better chance, but Stalin wasn't it. Like, just using like modern day slang. Does that appear?
Stalin wasn't it. Stalin didn't have the drip.
Not really. I mean, they do try to make me laugh every once in a while, but not maybe taking it to that level.
Okay.
I remember, it's funny, just fun. I want to do a fun story about my college career at U of E. I wound up graduating with a 4-year degree in exercise science. I was going to go to PT school, but that was when I found out I was dumb, and I wasn't going to get accepted. So that being said, I was finishing up my senior year, taking one of my last classes ever to graduate a semester early in December, and I'm taking this final. I've already passed the class. I could literally bomb this final and be done with college. It did not matter to me. And I was like just filling in blanks, answering the ones I knew, and then just filling in the rest, BS, whatever. You turn your final in, and they give us, the professor gave you a sheet. Hey, did you like this course? Question 1, question 2, hey, what can I do different? And then question 3 was like some other bullshit question. And I remember I drew like a stick man on there, like, and then with his hand up and the middle finger and said, "Suck it, I'm out." Like, or "Suck it, I'm done." Like, I can only imagine the day that made for my professor. Like,
it does. It does. I mean, yeah.
Have you seen some wild characters like that?
Yeah, exactly. They're usually maybe less in your face, but yeah, they'll usually try to apologize or make some kind of funny comment or funny picture or something like that when they don't know anything.
They knew I was aggressive,
right.
So they knew what they were getting in. They knew what they were in for.
So you mentioned how like you were studying just regular old economics and kind of forgotten about religion for a little bit. What was that thing? So was it just like...
So again, with the new type of economics, we are self-delusion cultivators. Mm-hmm. So now religion can come back in because now you can adopt non-factual information as part of your being. So in other words, it was rational to adopt non-factual information.
It can, but why did it come back to you? You said it was 10 years.
Because I was always obsessed with death. So to me, I mean, religion is trying to answer, right? Fundamentally, all religions have to answer, what do you do when you die?
Essentially, yeah.
So that's the foundation of all religion. And you have to answer that in some way, or at least not answer it in a systematic way like agnosticism, right? But there's lazy agnosticism, and then there's actual systematic agnosticism. You can go into Buddhism, and where there is not an answer to the fact that you don't know what happens when you die, but that's a systematic way of doing it.
I like that.
As opposed to a lazy way of doing it.
And too, I think your religion, of like where you grow up, like here in the United States, you're going to probably assume that they're Christian. So like, their economics are going to maybe revolve around more Christian values at like a core level than like somebody in the Middle East or...
So your identity, right, is different.
Right.
And the fact that we have monotheism, right, in Christianity, which has a very personal, individual way of looking at the world, right? You have one life. It's a high-risk game. You have one life. It's your choice, right? And you either go to heaven or hell. That's a huge individualistic view of the world.
Here are the good rules. Here are the bad rules. Like, follow these. Don't do that.
So we have a very self-conscious system, which the individual is at the center of the world because it's at the center of the religion. And so therefore, in the West, right, we have a very you go to the East, it's a very collective identity, right? Identity is you're part of a human, you're part of the family because... Again, in the Eastern thought is the individual doesn't exist.
And there's less
You don't exist as a human. The whole goal in Eastern thought is to come to the realization that you don't exist.
That's terrifying.
Perry can get deep on some existence.
How much?
So that's how I was able to bring back my religion into my understanding of rational decision making, because now it was rational to adopt non-factual information.
Okay.
And I can go ahead and go, oh, that's why people go ahead and adopt non-rational pieces of information, because it is building a self-delusional world that is actually beneficial. So going back to trying to hit on the 9s and the 10s as, sexual partners.
Yeah.
If I get the truth that I'm ugly and that I'm actually a 3, there's no way I'm going after a 9 or 10. But if I'm able to build a little bit of a delusional world and think I'm a 7, right, I may actually try to go after the 9 or 10. And so therefore, and some people, right, do get the 9s and 10s. You're like, how the hell did they get together? Right? You look at those people. How did those two people get together? Well, there's a self-delusional world
Perry,
that allows for a little bit of confidence.
I'm glad you asked. My wife is a fox.
Here, 1 second.
And you're looking at me. That was horrible. Do it one more time. Hit me again. This just in. Brian is a 7 and married a 10. She's a stone cold fox. So I'm glad you asked. I don't know how we linked up. Tinder is how we met. But it is interesting, though. I have no idea what she likes about me. But yeah, I feel like we do constantly feed our internal machine and just build this character of like what we want. But I don't know. That's fascinating.
So then it gets into politics. In other words, so the idea is that it's ideal for the individual. The individual optimizes by building a self-delusional world, and that's good for the individual. It's bad for society. The macro level, right, the macroeconomics is a mess, but the microeconomics, it makes sense to build a self-delusional world. So again, going into politics, right, we don't seek out information about the other party. We don't seek out information about politics or policies. We could care less, right? We're just going to build a little self-delusional world and go to the same sources of information that say, my candidate's the best, the other candidate's the worst. Yes, that makes me feel good.
Right, it's just like terms and conditions. We just all hit accept. You know what I mean? No, we're not reading it.
Yeah. And then when that guy knocks on your door to collect your first unborn, it's like, oh, fuck, I should have read those. God damn it. I'm so sorry, dude.
What happened with like Disney? Right? When they collect. Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
What happened?
So Disney, in their terms and conditions, is one thing is you cannot sue them. So like somebody got hurt at Disney, and they tried to sue Disney, and Disney was like, "No, you were a Disney Plus subscriber, so you can't legally sue us."
Yeah, dude, we got an NDA on your ass too, so shut up. That's so messed up, dude. Oh, Disney taking over the world.
That causes lots of inefficiencies in the world when you have a macro level perspective and everybody individually is.
This is interesting. I want to stay on the macro for a second. How do you fix it? How do you fix?
Well, I mean, what do you?
How do you fix it? This is a plague that's happening right now.
Well, I think the macro, it's weird. So, like, have you ever looked at one of those things where they got like 15 buckets at the bottom and a bunch of peg holes, and you drop balls in different parts? I feel like that's economics. Like you, like say their bottom holes are like, you know, religion, economy, whatever your points are, and then like, or those are the problems at the bottom or whatever, and then like, no matter, you got 10 different inputs, and you can put like water on this side, and it's going to end up over here when you wanted it to end up over there, or something along those lines.
That's a terrible analogy, but I'm trying to follow you. I'm going to ask the professional.
How to fix it? Yeah,
I'm going to ask the professional.
Well, I mean, maybe this will play in.
Let's not even just say politics. Let's just say the masses. There's 350 million people that live in this one place, and it's what's the term I'm looking for? It's by whatever. It's ones and zeros, binary. So they can either choose 1 or 0, whatever the case may be, finances, politics, whatever. But it's hateful. So like from 1 to 0, like the zeros hate the ones and the ones hate the zeros. But like you explained, neither one is doing research. They're just propagating this continuity.
Power. It's all about power.
This continuity of fucking pure chaos, which is really just a 50-50, cunt hair difference between the two of who's in charge or what's in charge.
It's about power. Both sides want power.
So how do you fix it?
So the way to fix it, economic theory, is a couple things. One is when you take a look at economic theory, when you go back to making exchanges, the best exchange you can make is with somebody who is the most radically different from yourself as possible.
I like that.
So if you are making exchanges with people who are similar to you and what you normally do,
you're feeding the system.
But also you're limiting your quality of life. But why do we do it? Because we trust those people.
They're my people.
They're my people.
They're
trust
my
them.
system.
So I have a level of trust associated with this, that this person's not going to hate me or kill me. And so therefore, but the economic theory says if you really want to live a life of transcendence, the highest possible life you can live is you go and make exchanges with people who are most radically different from you. Okay. That's economic theory. So if I'm seeing somebody who is different from me, I should say, let's go talk to that person. Yeah. But again, you've got to actually make sure that they don't rape you and kill you. So what you have to do is you have to make small talk.
Priority, folks. Make sure you're paying attention here. Don't get raped and murdered.
So I always hated small talk growing up because I didn't understand why would we be doing small talk?
The buzz.
So the reason we do small talk is so that we can start to build trust with each other.
Comfortability.
It's basically like how dogs smell each other's asses at the beginning of any kind of meeting.
Technically the glands, but I'm on board. I'm with you.
Same. I wanted to get the picture a little bit.
100%. I'm on board. Speaking of smelling glands, Jesus Christ.
So the reason, so we do that as humans. So humans do it in a way, but we do it with language.
Right. Yeah.
And we just kind of, talk about small things. But the whole point of it isn't actually to communicate information. The whole point of it is actually to build trust. So in other words, we just build back and forth trust. I make friendly noises at you. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, hey, I'm not going to kill you. Hey, I'm not going to rape you. I'm not okay.
You.
I'm not, exactly. You don't kill me, I don't kill you. Great. Now let's actually make an exchange.
Yeah.
Is the idea. So that the best advice I ever heard for small talk is whenever somebody asks you something, you never answer with just a yes or no answer. You always offer something back. Such as, hey, do you listen to deathcore? Or do you listen to music? Well, I don't listen to maybe Taylor Swift, but I do listen to deathcore. In other words, you always offer something back that they can latch onto, because that's the point, is to offer something of an exchange.
It's almost like leaving the
exchanges.
The door cracked
Absolutely.
open. You're not like, no, slam the door shut.
No, yes, no, yes, no. You always offer pieces of information back. It can just be random information, because the whole point isn't to communicate information. The whole point is to build trust with the other person.
Comfortability between two radically different
So you
parties.
see somebody at a rally, a protest.
Yeah.
You don't go yell at them as if they are the enemy and the devil. We can get back to metaphorical naming.
I like that.
So if I name somebody a metaphor, then there's no way. If I name somebody a devil, or if I name somebody Satan or Hitler, there's no way I'm going to make an exchange with somebody who is a Satan, who is the devil. I don't make exchanges with the devil unless,
Fucking metal, dude.
You don't make, this person's going to make me or kill me, right? This is, let's go back to the Jews, right? They were rats. Right,
Yeah.
And then the Houthis and the Tutsis, or whatever, they were cockroaches. If I have a name for somebody who is a cockroach, a rat, a devil, I don't make an exchange with that person. So I have to change my metaphor for the other side.
And it allows the you to treat them as non-human.
Also,
Absolutely right.
Also, one of my favorite Mexican jingles, La Cucaracha. Just fun fact. La Cucaracha. It means cockroach.
Gotcha.
One of my favorites.
So that's how you break the cycle.
Yeah,
you have to go and make an exchange with the other person, because it is in your own best interest to do that.
It doesn't.
Which is interesting on these aspects of Christians who never go into a mosque or experience another religion.
Absolutely.
So the Federal Board or the Federal Reserve Board, that's a thing, right? If I'm not mistaken, Federal Reserve Board. They're the people that control the gold and USD allocations, the value of the dollar, et cetera, et cetera. Let's use them because essentially the government controls everything that happens here. So that was my question, is you answered it pretty well on an individualistic level. That's excellent. But how do you fix such a mass scale, such a large scale problem that we're having? We don't ever talk about politics on this show, but that's what I'm referencing. But you could use anything. And the Federal Reserve Board, they control all the money. So let's say they're binary as well, and they can lean this way or they can lean that way. And the two different sides just are at a head. You know what I mean? They're just not. How can you balance this massive, this side hates that side, and that side hates this side, and it's just there's no compromisation. It's just you know what I mean? How is a government?
So again, let's go back to metaphorical naming. But if I'm looking at the government on either side, then if I look at them as their objective is to increase the quantity and quality of transactions or exchanges, that's the goal. The goal of government is to increase the quantity and quality of transactions. One side believes you can do that at the individual level through private business. The other side believes you can do it through the social level, right, through government. And we have a fundamental, what do you call it? A fundamental antagonism. Get into maybe some philosophy there. A fundamental antagonism, in which case, when does the individual become the social? And it never does. In other words, is the social made up of a whole bunch of individuals that then form the social?
No.
Or is the social forming the individual? It's both and, right? So in other words, the society and the social is forming the individual, but the individual is also forming society. But there is no way to blend those two perspectives together. So you're always going to have an antagonism at the center of that debate. Is it the individual or the social? There will always have an antagonism there that will never be complete, but the best way to do it is to understand it. In other words, if I can understand that that side is trying to help. Yeah. This side is trying to fix. If I'm looking at the left, they're trying to fix these failures that happen in the market. So there are these key market failures that exist, and they believe that the only way to do that is through social power. And they do exist. The other side is trying to solve it through individual power and private business. But there are some key problems with that. And so therefore, how do you fix those problems? But how do you fix the problems of the social? So I think given your answer is that there is no magic bullet that solves both problems because there's no solution to the problem. Bullet.
But there is a take-home message there.
I thought you were about to say, well, there is a magic bullet.
If you're listening to the
JFK.
Shout out to Kennedy. I think that my take-home message, even though like you said, there's not a clear and definitive answer on how to fix the massive scale of fucking chaos we're experiencing in the U.S. right now.
Well, I also don't think that we're willing to try new things either.
No, but to his point, information is king. Like, if you're leaning one side and you've always leaned that side, know more about the other side. And if you're on the other side and you've always leaned the other side, learn some more about this other side.
So here's another solution maybe in terms of how to deal with it is both sides want power. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have to get rid of power. You have to vote. And let's just bring back maybe religion and politics together. The idea is that the Christian right is voting for or against policy. But they believe they can do that through the use of power. So if I can just get power, I can implement my policies. And my policies are going to be good and implemented into the world. However, right, is that Jesus, in terms of Christianity, is all about the powerless. So it's all about losing power and becoming powerless.
Because the powerless can speak to the other powerless. That's one thing I found or came to the realization of last 2 weeks or whatever, is that when Jesus came, he came and spoke to the broken because the broken know how to speak to the broken.
Yeah. So therefore, if I'm going to vote, if you're going to vote, if I'm voting as an economist or as a Christian, I'm voting third party. The reason is I'm voting third party is because I'm voting against the system of power. Because power is going to bring inefficiency. Whoever wields that, go back to Lord of the Rings, whoever wields that ring has to be destroyed. It can't be wielded by anybody.
And shout out to Led Zeppelin, too. Fuck yeah.
So the way to solve it is if I get rid of power, then I'm going to be able to have exchanges. I don't need exchange if I have power. I will just implement my objective over you because I have power.
This is gonna swing political because now I have so many questions. You're just feeding into more questions that I have. All right, we're gonna lean political, and if you don't like politics, fucking suck it. I'm gonna do my best to take a non-biased approach, but I do have a question. I agree with the third party thing. Kennedy was a fucking stud.
Right. Where do you go now? Is that your question?
No. Okay. I have a question though. He was a fucking stud. I agree with you. He's a great man. Comes from great blood. Just was all about him. Literally had my vote. However, the argument against voting third party is that you'll never get Congress. You'll never get these other. So I say all that to ask you this: is the American system in general? You could talk about the judicial system. You can talk about the executive system. It doesn't matter. Are we set up essentially for this binary? Whoever's got the masses, you get the power. Are we setting ourselves up for failure? Is there a better way?
The two-party system is going to set itself up for failure, yes.
Right.
Because it's going to allow for concentration of power. So, in other words, the most amount of power you can have is a monopoly.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a dictatorship. Now, both sides, right, want a dictatorship. Both sides would be more than happy to have a dictatorship
just
because then
bunch of Dems out here, a bunch of Republicans with shotguns at the fucking courthouse.
Because then it's my policy. I get to implement my policy unrestrained, and my policy is the best. My policy is going to fix the world. I fix the world because my policy is the best.
Yeah.
And so, no matter what, a duopoly is just one step away from a dictatorship.
Also, it's like the Middle Ages. Christianity versus Islam and the whole fight. My side's better than your side. We know the answer. You don't know the answer.
Yeah, and it's
Also-
going to lead to violence, which the two-party systems leads to violence.
It does. We've already seen it twice now. President or ex-president, President Trump, whatever you call him, has been shot at twice now. It's just a real bummer because I know that this country it has succeeded for 200 plus years, going on 300 years. Love it. Love this country.
Ooh.
Fought for this country. Love this country. However, I know what Rome's all about. I know how they went down. And
Well, I wonder.
But again, there's hope. There is hope because, again, we're not talking policy, right? We're talking power. So you can be on either side and just vote not for power. You can go on to, there's a site called isidewith.com, and you can take a little quiz, and it will tell you, well, this is what I believe in all these different areas, and it will give you all the different presidential candidates who are going to be voting or going to be running.
isidewith.com.
isidewith.com.
Interesting. Okay, keep going.
And
Sorry.
then it will tell you how much of your views align with the different presidential candidates.
Oh, nice.
Well, then just find a third party in there, right? In other words, it's if you have a policy that you hold dear to, find a third party that holds that policy.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to, and then the argument is, well, if I vote for this, I'm actually voting for the other side. Now, my question is no, or my answer is no. You're voting against power.
But you're still throwing away a vote. That's
No,
the other.
See,
that's
the
the other
lie.
argument
That's the
you
lie
always
is,
hear, though.
yeah, exactly. But if I'm voting against power, then I am not throwing away my vote.
So explain that real quick, because that is something, and I know you've heard it too. When you vote third party, why are you not throwing your vote away?
Because I'm voting against power.
But it's a system that's bred that left and right, one of the two is going to win. If I go in the middle, you're just casting your vote away to nothing.
Well, no, because that's the lie of power. So power says, right, you're powerless no matter what you do. No matter what you do, you can't change the world. Well, I can change the world with my vote. I can vote against you. I can vote against power. And so, therefore, if we have a whole bunch of a revolution that votes against power, then we have actually exchanges. We have to sit in Congress, and we have to actually sit down and talk. I think some of the most amazing people on both sides, if I'm going to go into party, Republican or Democrat, are the people who stand up against their own party, like Joe Manchin, right? What a great guy who stands up against his own party. Same thing with who were the Republican senators that stand up against their party. Lisa, who?
I'm the furthest from a politician.
Susan Collins, maybe?
Okay.
Right? So in other words, they will stand up against their own party. And that takes true guts to stand up against your own party. But let's take it one step farther and then stand up against all party systems. In other words, if I'm voting against Republican and against Democrat, I can still vote my policy. I can still vote my conscience. I just go to a third party that holds as close as it can to my policy, and then I can take down the system of power.
Hell yeah, dude. This episode is brought to you by Rage Against the Machine. We're going to bring the fucking system down tonight, boys.
I was going to say...
That's the beauty of deathcore as well.
Before we get into deathcore, I was going to say, technology nowadays leads to, like, exponential growth. Like, what you could do in a year, you can do in 10 years now. Do you think that leads to, like, economic collapse faster of, like, these empires? Like, if Rome had the tech that we did and they were growing exponentially like we were, they would collapse in 200 years.
So, again, let's go back to the benefits of social media. The benefits of social media is you can start a movement to vote third party, right? And that can spread rapidly across the entire country in a matter of days. You don't need a whole long time to start a revolution.
I wanna put a dog.
Start a revolution.
I do. Fuck yeah, bro. No, but I want to dog ear that. I want to stop right there because here's the thing. Here's the thing about Kennedy. He was fucking crushing it. He was fucking everywhere. He was fucking kissing babies. He was pushing people around in wheelchairs. He was talking about the environment. He was going on Joe Rogan. He was fucking doing everything right. His social media push was nothing short of, it was perfection. He did great. Still booted out. He can't, the third party, I don't know what it is, if someone's pulling the strings or whatever, but the third party candidate does not gain traction. They do not gain traction. They never have, and my fear is they never
gain
will.
Traction. Well, they just can't compete with the amount of money that's thrown across the
board. Again, so that's why you bring in religion. So religion is the single most powerful system that humans have. Religion will change. It has changed the world. It confounds the world in a bunch of different areas. Religion is the single. Politics is nothing compared to religion.
Is this why you teach a power equals religion class as well? How long have you been teaching that?
Can you explain that? Hold on. First off, what the hell is that?
So yeah, that is a class it's called Power, Evil, and Religion.
Power, Evil, and Religion.
My bad, I got it wrong. But
Jesus, tighten up, brother.
I thought it was power equal religion.
Power, Evil, and Religion.
Gotcha.
So yes, then we talk about how all the different religions in the world solve the problem of exchange. And so how do they solve the problem of exchange? How do they overcome selfishness and evil? So we define selfishness and evil in a very specific way, because first you have to know what you're talking about before you can have a conversation on it. So we have to define what selfishness is, define what evil is, and then we talk about how all the different religions in the world. I do the big five. So we do monotheism, Christianity, and Islam. Then we do Eastern religion of Hinduism and Buddhism. I do an agnostic Buddhism in the class. I even do a atheistic humanism in the class as a religion.
I like that.
Because everybody has a religion. So to be religious is to be human. So I think in the idea of fighting, I'm not religious, is just a lie because you have one, whether you realize it or not.
Right, your religion is no religion.
Yes, exactly.
You have still core beliefs.
And you probably are not the religion that you think you are, because maybe you think that you fit a certain name, but when you look at how you solve problems of exchange...
They need an I stand with website for religion.
You do. Well, you'll see that you're actually a blend of a bunch of different kinds of religions. So because in economics, there's two things. We have this thing called stated preference, which is what you say, and then revealed preference is what you do. And so economists don't really care about what you say. Talk is cheap. That's an economic term.
Money talks.
Yeah. Or talk is cheap.
It's like in a giant equation, and you have the equal sign of like the outcome, and then like all the factors of like X and Y are like religion, like social background.
Yeah, you could do a regression on that, but the idea is to think about how you make exchanges with other people.
Gotcha.
And so that's the goal, to make an exchange. And so the foundation of religion is to make exchanges and to solve this problem, to increase our quality of life. And so I don't have time to get into all the different religions and how they do it here, but even an atheistic humanist is a religious person because they're solving the exchange problem in a certain way. And so we look at how each religion solves that exchange problem, and then how that religion fails to solve that exchange problem when it falls down into power structures, when it falls down into what I call self-hatred or hatred and self-hate and hatred of others. Forget the specific terms. But each religion can fail to solve that problem, and then you have the evils of religion. So now you can see where the religion's going to go when it starts to turn evil or when it starts to abuse its power.
Also, one of the only Christians I've ever met that has said the word hate and hatred in the same sitting. That's never happened. Like an active. You're a practicing Christian, right? Still, or has that changed?
Yes, although probably when you hear the word Christian, I probably don't fit that immediate image that you have in your mind about what a Christian is.
Okay, like the long beard and the long hair. I get it.
Or even the traditional doctrinal beliefs.
No, I get you. I was only teasing. No, that's interesting though.
But Perry does say he worships at metal shows.
I like that. You
guys can talk metal now. I know that like you guys have been biting at the bit since the start.
I'm very new to the metal world. So is that the way we're going to lean into this, or do you?
Yeah, no. After that, it's about rituals. So I feel like it'll be a decent transition.
Okay, rituals are important. I'm not like a huge. Are you a big show goer? Do you go to a lot of shows?
Recently, but I've only been into metal for about 3 years, maybe.
Really? So. About the same for me. 5 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, I've really been getting into metal. Before that, it was just all the screamo, and then I was like listening to way too much Katy Perry for a long time. Are you a Katy Perry fan?
We listen to one of her songs, I think, every 4th of July after the fireworks show.
Goddamn, fireworks.
Is that what it's called? It's called Firework or something.
Firework.
I come up here sometimes, and Brian's playing guitar and just singing it.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag?
Yeah, I'm getting copywritten.
No.
No, but I was gonna say, tell me your metal joke. How you got your wife into metal?
Oh yeah, I love this joke. I haven't hammered out the details yet, but basically here we go. So I've always been into physical fitness, like since the military, so for the last 20 years essentially, or even longer. But anyways, so I've been in physical fitness. I like to listen to aggressive music or Katy Perry while I'm working out. My wife has, we've been together 10 years. She's been going to the gym pretty much the whole time we've been together. So she's pretty active as well. She always listened to like hip hop and stuff when I first met her. But recently, in the last 2 years, she's gotten into the metal thing now. And buddy, let me tell you, without my notes pulled up, I can't remember like the names of the songs, but anyway, so she gets into this metal scene, and I'm like, yeah, this is the kind of aggressive stuff I like to listen to, and I'm lifting, and I would like show her a song, and she'd pull it up on her Spotify and add it to a playlist, and she'd go listen to it. And she'd be like, yeah, that was a little aggressive. And I was like, well, you're not there yet. And she'd find a song that she liked. So she started working her way into metal that way. Long and skinny of it is basically she got to the point to where she was starting to find new metal songs and send them to me. Now she's really exponentially growing into this metal field.
Yes.
Yeah, so now it's taken a hold of her. So then she comes home one day and she was like, hey, I found this song that really got me through this Max set. It's called Skinned and Fucked by the band Ingested. And I was like, that was the moment I knew. I was like, holy shit. She's trying to apex me. You know what I'm saying? She's trying to
check your life insurance policy.
Yeah, she's trying to test my pedigree of metal. So I'm in the fucking gym the other day. I'm really feeling it. I'm checking out all these new playlists. I'm finding the most aggressive bands I can find. And I come home and I was like, you'll never guess. Here, check this song out that I found. And I thought I was going to beat her. Now it's a game. And I was like, check out this song that I found called Cunt Crusher. What do you think of that? Huh? And I kind of like flex on her. She was like, yeah, it's all right. I was like, this bitch. So anyway, she comes back the next day. She was like, you're never going to guess what I found in the gym, lifting or whatever. She was like, it was a song called Forced Gender Reassignment by Cattle Decapitation. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, what are we doing here, folks? What are we fucking doing here, folks? So now when I lift, I just listen to Jeffrey Dahmer on tape. That's essentially where I'm at.
That's a good
I haven't found out if I'm going to become a serial killer or listen to serial killers but that's the gist of the joke.
Well delivered.
Yeah,
very well delivered.
I need to dial it in. But yeah, I swear to God, it's just like that, though. Yeah. She's gotten so big into it. Are you a decapitation fan? Cattle decapitation?
I know them, but... So what I do, again, to go back to the all experience, is I'll have a band.
Segue.
All those names were all experiences for me.
No, exactly. So I will latch on to a band, and then I will really just kind of go through that cycle and listen to that band only for about like 6 months at a time. So I really only listen to like one band at a time.
Really? So who are you on right now?
So Paleface Swiss.
Paleface Swiss.
It is unbelievable. But let me get into some theory on my deathcore.
Oh, and that was going to be I wanted to open up with that, but he brought up the joke thing. I wanted you to hear that, but I'm still hammering those details out. How did you get into? How did this journey begin?
So how I got in was I went to a men's retreat with Zach Parsons.
Oh, you were there?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
One of like the first one.
Screaming in the woods and like wrestling and shit. Hell yeah. I'm about it. I'm about it. I'm very interested in it.
So one of the guys was a metal guy.
Hell yeah.
And I was picking my kid up from the YMCA, I think swim lessons or something.
Nice.
And at the Veterans Memorial, Veterans
Parkway?
Memorial. No, it's the Coliseum, right? What is it? Is it the old building it's Veterans building, that memorial building with the columns over there?
Yeah, it's the
Veterans
Memorial Coliseum. Yeah,
whatever it is. So anyway, I saw over there was a line of just people just dressed up in pure black. I mean, they weren't any other color besides black, and there's like 1,000 of them, it seemed like, just wrapped around this building.
Real Day of the Dead vibes.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like
Dawn of the Dead.
What is happening here, right? So you're like, what is this? And on the billboard, it said Lorna Shore. And then so I'm like...
that is not how you started your
It is.
They are so fucking aggressive. What were you listening to before? What was your everyday?
I don't know. I mean, I don't do a whole lot of music.
That is such a wild change. That is so. You weren't really a big music person
not
before?
Really, no, not a big music person.
Okay,
not a huge music person in my life.
I was gonna say if you were like starting with like I listened to a lot of Bee Gees and the Beatles and then I just started listening to Lorna Shore and you're like, okay, that's a wild transition.
Now I'm all in.
No, but for the ones who don't know, Lorna Shore, look them up. They are fucking aggressive, dude.
So yeah, I looked it up, and that first one was Sun Eater. And so I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and click on Sun Eater. and then so I'm listening to it, and it starts off, and it's like classical music. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, this is not... I'm like looking at these, remembering this big line of people wearing black, and it's like classical music, and I'm like, what has happened? And then it hits... Right, and it just goes 110%. Yeah, just going and going and going, and you've got the what I call it, the demon vocals or whatever, the growls, all this good stuff.
Oh yeah,
and so I had that all experience. I'm like, what am I listening to? What is this?
It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters now. You found metal,
exactly,
dude.
And it was like, oh man, because it was the combination of the symphonic piece, right, with this just heavy music,
satanic
and I was
to
sold, and I was sold. Now, again, if you look up some research on it, old classical music is the metal is actually old classical music. There's a huge similarity in terms of structure of the songs.
There's a couple bands that do that. Yeah.
So have you heard of Disembodied Tyrant?
Yeah, and they have like nights and shit.
So Synestia and Disembodied Tyrant, they actually put together like an EP about where they blended classical music, particularly Vivaldi, with deathcore. And so there's a song called Winter that actually brings in both of those together, and it is phenomenal.
That is fucking...
You have to listen to them afterwards.
That is hot. There's one band, and I think we're thinking of the same band, but there's a band that has like a couple of nights on the album cover, and it every song starts with like those weird Dark Ages guitar kind of sounds like ding 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 ding, and it sounds very like old Englandish kind of classical kind of music, like Vivaldi's-esque. And then 30 seconds in, it's just like boom, 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 and then the squealing and the screaming and all that stuff. And it's just fucking beautiful.
So then, of course, as a theorist, I'm like, what is this, and why does this exist? And I think part of the harsh vocals, right, exists as what's called a barrier to entry. So in other words, it creates a boundary in which the identity can be formed.
Like mumble rapping.
Yeah, so in other words, it's like once you get past the harsh vocal,
once you can tune your brain to translate
into it, then you're inside you become metal, right? Then you're inside the identity. So it forms this barrier to entry that keeps people out. But when you're inside, that's why it's so fulfilling to be inside, because you get it. And you're one of the people that get it. You're in the in crowd. You're in the in group. And so it feeds life to the identity that exists. Now, one of the things I hate in metal is there's so many gatekeepers in metal that try to categorize the band as, that's not deathcore, that's hardcore, that's, whatever it is.
And grindcore.
Yeah, grindcore, whatever it is.
That's treecore.
Yes, exactly.
What the fuck are you talking about,
and
bud?
They're
talking about cocoa core. I use that shit in my garden.
Minutes. Okay. But yeah, back to the grindcore, hardcore, treecore.
Yeah, so there are those gatekeepers, though. So those gatekeepers provide a part of the identity ecosystem. They're needed for the in-group to be able to thrive. Now, again, they're a pain in the ass, because they're always arguing in the comments or whatever it is, but they're providing an identity that allows you to adapt to those tastes and preferences that the identity is offering you. So it's part of the all process in which you're becoming more complex and becoming an identity person because of those gatekeepers. But anyway, so I started off with Lorna Shore, and then I'm like, okay, I've listened to them for about 6 months. And then I'm like, I got to find a new band somewhere. So I branched a little bit into Brand of Sacrifice, which are fantastic as well. And then I was trying to find some new bands, and there was a band that was going to come to Evansville called Tala. And so I'm like, let's check them out, right? Because I was going to actually go. I'm like, I want to go to some concerts. And the reason that I go to concerts gets back to the worship into the concerts. Is if you take a look at psychology, Emil Durkheim's work. is that if you have a crowd of people, that crowd of people produces what's called collective effervescence. So if you're in a church and you have a crowd of people, that's the Spirit of God that's come. So there is a feeling of something greater than yourself, which is present. You lose a little bit of your identity in the pit, right? You lose a little bit of identity in the church, especially if you're all wearing the same kind of things.
Yeah.
And so it's called this collective effervescence. And so when you go to a show, you've got to go in the pit and you've got to just throw down and run around and jump around, because then you start to lose a little bit of your identity, and you're part of a collective identity to feel the presence, right, of this collective effervescence. And that allows you to worship. And so what I like about deathcore shows to worship is, here's my kind of how I determine whether I like a band or not. So the starting level of metal is, it's I hate other people, right? So in other words, fuck you, I hate you, right? That's kind of the beginning part.
Yeah, that's base.
Yeah, base level, entry level. Yeah. And, I had talked to some students at the gym, and they had some stuff in Evansville, and the people throwing punches and stuff like that. I'm like, that's not the show I'm going to.
Yeah.
I want to go to a little bit of higher level of hate.
Yeah.
Right? So you have, I hate other people, then you have, I hate the world.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're like, I hate the world, fuck this world, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so then you have, okay, I'm there, I'm on there. Then you have, I hate God. Then you have, I hate the existential reality of all things. And Paleface Swiss is phenomenal when it comes to I hate God, I hate the world. So they are at this level of I hate God. But then, right, and this is get back maybe to religion later on, is you can surpass that, in which, right, you get to this I hate God. You can go to a level above that where you don't hate anything because God's dead.
You're a nihilist.
Yeah, well, that's so
nihilistic metal.
Yes, but it's not a hopeless nihilism. It's a hopeful nihilism.
Okay, I like that.
I've actually transcended hate altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to go through hate to transcend hate.
They're making new verbs.
Yeah, when it comes to
they're making new verbs for disliking shit.
Exactly. And so you actually have to go through this to get to this highest level, and that's the bands that I love. So I went to the Lorna Shore show, and Will Ramos is in there. He's just throwing it down. And at the end, I mean, if you heard the trilogy, the Pain Remains trilogy on Lorna Shore,
I've not.
It is.
I'm not the biggest Lorna fan.
Okay,
I do know their stuff though.
It is just phenomenal. It is just phenomenal to hear the whole trilogy of this, and it goes through this nihilistic type of thing, but it's a hopeful nihilism. And so at the show, he's like, this was my brother-in-law's favorite song. He just passed, and he's listening to it. He's almost crying on stage. Right? We go through the song, and he's like, "Hey, if you don't tell people you love them, right, go tell them right now. Right? This is the time to do it because you don't know how much longer you last." And I'm like, "This is the love fest." Right? We've just gone into the heaviest, deepest, darkest shit that you can throw down, and all of a sudden you end up in love. You don't end up in hate. You end up in love. And so that's the kind of deathcore and newcore and stuff like Kubla Khan, right? I mean, Kubla Khan stuff is so positive.
That slam metal shit, dude. They fucking.
Have you heard their Swan Song? Have you heard Swan Song from them? Oh my God! I'm
sure I have.
Tears.
I don't know the lyrics, but I'm sure I've heard it.
It is tearful.
His vocals are just so unique.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
I am convinced that is the reason Kubla Khan has made it as far as they have. That front man is other fucking worldly.
He is a beast, and
his vocals set him aside from every other band, and then how hard the hitters are just like in your face. Like,
it was
so fucking good, dude.
We're all like singing the songs to it on the show when they opened.
God,
but you'll love Paleface Swiss too because he's a unique vocalist.
Will you do me a favor? Will you pull up Spotify because I don't want to misquote. Can you pull up Spotify real quick? I want to show him this band that I know. So there's this band, and I call them X-Lov. Their entire. We've talked about this on the show. I want you to see this band. No, don't do that. Search a song, Dicks Out for Harambe. Dicks Out. Yeah, there it is. X-Lov. Or that's the band name. So it's a fucking what do you call it?
Acronym?
It's an acronym. Now, if you could do me a favor, Tom, this band is phenomenal, by the way. Copy and paste that band name and then go to Google. I just want to read what this acronym means. you're not doing a great job here.
Copy it.
That's dumb. Go back, and then can we just right-click one of these? Right-click the band name. Two-finger click the band name. Can't copy it? Oh, my God. All right, well, anyways, this band goes so fucking hard. Obviously, they have a song called I Come Blood, Dicks Out for Harambe, and these...
Cannibal Corpse, apparently. I Come Blood.
Dicks Out for Harambe song. Google this, because you've got to know this acronym. This acronym is horrendous. Artist. Dicks Out for Harambe artist. Wait till you read this. Dicks Out for Harambe. Who sings it? Does it show the fucking band's name anywhere? Okay, now click that. All right. Now, full name. Yeah, I think this is right. Full name is acidic this is all getting bleeped. Acidic vaginal liquid explosion generated by mass amounts of filthy fecal fisting and sadistic, septic, syphilic sodomy inside the infected, maggot-infested womb of a molested nun dying under the roof of a burning church while a priest watches and ejaculates an immense perverse pleasure over his first fresh fetus. This is one of the third bands that I started off with in my metal journey. Phenomenal band. Yeah, they've got some really, really aggressive stuff. So if you're into like the growling and stuff like that, that's what they're big on. But yeah, you'll have to check them out.
Yeah,
we'll listen to one of them on the way out of the show.
And so you've been to a Parsons Men retreat. Zach's good friends of all of ours. Brian and I have wanted to attend one for a while, but you're a big rituals guy. And like I know you've performed rituals or helped your friends curate rituals. So like
there's like seances. What's happening here?
I mean, yeah, we're talking about worshiping at metal concerts to rituals. So what do you view? Like you can do a ritual for basically like anything a person's wanting to experience, right? So you like sit down with the friend and you're like, what do you want this ritual to like? What's the intent?
Yeah, so I got interested in personal transformation, and so how does personal transformation happen? How do people change? And so it doesn't happen through, and again, this is kind of going back through my church experience, is it doesn't happen when I'm listening to a sermon. I can't listen to sermons. I can't go into a church and hear somebody, more specifically, right, a usually rich, middle-aged, straight white male, tell me who they think God is. I don't care what that person thinks. They've been to seminary, they have a lot of intellectual knowledge, but one of my favorite quotes is that you teach other people what you know, but you produce other people by who you are. And so it was a whole bunch of intellectual, consent to different kinds of doctrines. And another interesting quote is that the system is currently designed to produce exactly what it's producing. So in other words, if I'm looking at the output of the system, right? I can't blame the output of the system. I have to look at the system. So there's a problem with the system as opposed to the problem with the output. It's not the people's fault. It's the system's fault that's producing the type of people that is producing. So I'm like, there's no change happening. This is not who I want to be. And so I had to look into how has human history produced change in people? How do they bring about personal transformation? And that's how I got into the study of rituals. So we are a ritual-less culture, less ritualistic. We don't do rituals anymore. We don't do rites of passage.
We used to.
Yeah, we used to. So, for example, like when did you become a man? You probably couldn't answer that question. But if you were born into a tribe, you knew when you became a man because there was a ritual that brought you from boyhood to manhood. Mm-hmm. And there was a designed ritual that allowed you to then change your metaphorical understanding of yourself as I was a child, now I'm a man. But we don't do that anymore with our kids.
We
don't do that anymore.
18th birthday. Congrats.
We do it. We try. I mean, this is how hungry we are for it. We kind of do it for our 21st birthday, right? We go out there and we just drink a whole bunch because I'm 21. Yeah. But that's as we're hungry for this ritual transformation that happens. And so we have kind of thrown away all these things for cheap ceremonies. So in other words, these ceremonies they're a whole bunch of symbols, they're a bunch of audience, there's a bunch of words, but there's no personal transformation. And so how does that personal transformation happen? It happens through rituals. And so I spent a number of months, if not years, taking a look at how personal transformation happens through rituals. And
would you consider a near-death experience a ritual?
So a ritual is a contained crisis, a contained identity crisis. So you can have uncontained identity crisis in which, right, I can actually that's detrimental. That can be detrimental. So if I go through something and I don't have ritual elders there, then I can die. I can commit suicide. I can drink myself to death.
You're like ayahuasca without shamans.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to have ritual elders present because they provide safe place, if you will, for the personal transformation to happen. So again, practical metaphor of this is a turning from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Yeah,
you've got to have the chrysalis. If you don't have the chrysalis, you're dead. You just disintegrate into nothing and you die.
Yeah.
So that happens all the time for I think a lot for teenage boys and teenage girls. They are having these identity crises, but they don't have any kind of container or protection to have this breakdown of their identity. But it's fundamentally necessary, especially going from childhood to adult. It's like I was dependent and I have to be independent. How do I do that?
Well,
right?
And you experience, like you and I both have in our life, where you come from that cocoon and then you go to college and there's no cocoon.
That's what happened to me, right?
Yeah.
I was very suicidal and I almost died because there was no ritual process that then allowed me to make that transition. So yes, I think going into the future of religion, we're going to move away from the sermon as the center of the religious practice into a ritual as the center of religious practice. The closest that we get to right now is the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church with the Eucharist. That's the closest they can get. Now, again, a lot
Brian
of that
doesn't even know what a Eucharist is, and he was just like,
no, I'm just shout out to the Catholics, dude. Big fan of the
so
Catholics.
it is, the Lord's Supper, the eating the body and blood of Jesus Christ. Now, again, they get the closest to it because for them, they believe in transubstantiation. What that means is that when it's performed, that bread and that drink, that wine, actually become the actual flesh and blood of Jesus Christ. So in other words,
if I'm not mistaken, they're blessed by the Father before they do it, right? You're smiling like I'm...
This just in, Dahmer was Catholic.
You know what? Actually, I think he was. No bullshit. I could be mistaken. I thought he was Catholic. Either way,
so that's why the Mass is
the bread and the
important.
wine are blessed before.
Yeah, and they become the actual
embodiment
blood,
of Christ.
What I think.
So whereas in the Protestants believe it becomes a symbol, it's not the actual blood. It's a symbol of the body, the symbol of the blood. It doesn't actually become the body and the blood.
Okay. So, I was going to say one thing that's cool about like rituals is like I feel like different rituals need different periods of rest in between.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't just go you could do like an ayahuasca experience and then a month later go do one, and then another month later do one, but like it's not needed necessarily.
Unless you're Aaron Rodgers.
You need that time to reflect.
If you're Aaron Rodgers or Joe Rogan, it's a weekly activity. It's a weekly ritual.
So go to the Eucharist, right? It is a weekly activity.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, and
it is.
Yeah. You have it. You have it every single because what it is. I mean, that's why the Mass is so important because the Mass is the actual death of Christ every single week. You actually experience the death of Christ, the death of God every single week.
Yeah.
And that's how it can become so powerful because it actually is the reenactment, not reenactment even. It's the reliving, whatever.
Incarnation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the actual thing that happens.
Yeah.
So it's not a symbol. It's the thing that happens. That's why you have it. And these Catholic mystics would come and they would take this Eucharist and they would have these euphoric experiences almost every week because of what they put into it psychologically.
I've never thought about Bill Murray more like Jesus Christ until just now. You guys ever seen the film Groundhog Day?
Yes.
All right, onward. One simple question for you. Why don't Christians drink? Why can't Christians drink? Catholics can, obviously not to abscess, but they can. Not necessarily frowned upon. Christians don't, typically. I don't understand. I've never understood that. What's the difference?
I mean, have you been around the West Side? I see plenty of Christians that drink.
It's not condoned by their Christian church, by their Christian...
I think you're talking about like older age Christians, like Vietnam Christians. Vietnam
I don't
era.
know. Is this
Vietnam
I know
era?
Southern Baptists don't drink or dance, right? I mean, it's just like don't
right?
engage.
Some
in
people
that.
don't do music at all.
Yeah,
So, I don't
Some
know.
people
It
don't
just
do
depends on
instruments.
your denomination.
I was just curious because I know every Catholic that I know drinks like 2 abscess, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I don't know why the Protestants.
I just never understood that. Yeah,
I can
don't
tell
know.
you the Islamic reasoning behind it.
Haram.
Well, yeah, but they also believe that like if you participate in the alcohol of this life, you don't get the alcohol of heaven.
Oh, those cheap sons of bitches.
Well, I guess there probably is a time and place for it. In other words, if you're doing it all the time, it can be deadly.
Oh,
but
yeah,
if you're
of course.
using it in a
celebratory
ritualistic way,
or ritualistic,
I mean,
every Sunday.
Jesus' first miracle was to turn water into wine.
Yeah, dude, he would turn
so
up.
that people could get drunker.
Yeah, turn up.
Because that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
At a college party, the keg runs out. You're like, "What the hell we do?"
Yeah,
Right? And also, you put the good keg out first, and then you bring out the bad keg.
It's like, God damn it, we screwed up again, boys. No, man, I do really appreciate you coming in. I do have one more final question. This is kind of our final roundhouse kick to the jowls. I'm sure Tom probably warned you in advance.
Actually, I don't think I did on this one.
Nice, dude. Totally going to blindside him with this one scripted question that we have.
The only scripted question that we have.
So important and may potentially ruin this entire interview. I'm so sorry. He was supposed to warn you. We like to cover, if you've seen the episodes, you know at the end, we always ask, what was your darkest moment? And more importantly, what motivated you to get through that dark moment? We'd care about the dark moment, but I don't necessarily.
You don't have to go into detail on the dark moment.
Yeah, I don't
we care more about what pulled you through that moment, what kept you going.
We're not trying to like
I think
protagonize any PTSD or anything.
Right.
But
Well, I think that we kind of covered that already. It was my sophomore year in collge.
yeah,
Was
when you were
when I was-
borderline or
When I was suicidal.
Essentially
And
suicidal.
And religion pulled you out of it?
And yes.
And as you've touched on a few points already through the episode, you're still finding that reason to keep going every day.
Yeah, so whole episode if you want to talk about my religious progression. But yes, it is. So there was, here's another one. Another experience that I had was I knew religion saved my life. But then not long after I got into kind of maybe doctrinal religion, and that led me to self-hate, shame, and was another huge dark period of my life. So I found religion, saved my life, and then I got into religion, and it led me into shame and self-hatred.
naturally.
And
That's what it does. That's what it does. Oh, you mean I'm not supposed to think about strange women naked?
so,
You're like, you can't turn it off. It's like you're just always.
yeah, so there's the downside of that.
Yeah.
And so
What pulls you through that? Your self-disgust, your loath for yourself.
Part was a ritual that I did with Zach and Austin. We went into the woods, and there was a ritual that I had designed. Was based off of the Jewish sacrificial system. But
yeah.
there was a ritual that I designed in the woods, and that freed me of my shame.
This is where they bring the goat, and they slaughter the goat, right? Is that the Jewish sacrificial? Am I thinking of the right thing?
There's all kinds of different Jewish sacrificial things. Like that's why they had doves and lambs, and like you could basically buy different levels of forgiveness or whatever. And then like the Islamic perspective, they do it like at least once a year. You're supposed to either like sacrifice a goat or pay somebody to sacrifice a goat on your behalf.
So the traditional Jewish system is a little bit different than the sacrificial system that we think of today. So what we think of today is sacrifice is I give something away, I have to give it up. Man, that's really bad, right? I've got to hurt myself to make myself better. But the Jewish sacrificial system in the Bible was actually a system which allowed you to sacrifice something and then get it back. So in other words, I sacrificed a lamb because then we had a meal with Yahweh afterwards. You actually ate the lamb afterwards. And if you take a look at the literature and the research, having a meal with somebody is one of the most intimate things you can do.
Absolutely.
And so it was having a meal with God, in which case you actually ingested the perfection of the lamb. You actually became perfect as you ingested the lamb. So I gave it. That's why you never wanted to sacrifice a injured lamb or a blemished lamb, because you became that. So what you sacrifice is actually what you became. So you only gave it away to get it back.
We're only killing the best damn lamb we got.
Yeah, that's the Cain and Abel thing. I saw a thing too, just to throw it out there randomly, that like Yahweh is really just an inhale and an exhale.
Oh yeah, so I thought you posted that thing.
Yeah,
Sick, dude.
because like you're not supposed to say Yahweh. Like Yahweh isn't the actual. I mean, it is the name, but not the name. Like then Judaism, like you're not supposed to say the name of God. So like they didn't write it.
Don't say
like,
Judaism.
Judaism.
Yeah, Judaism. Jesus, Murphy, uncultured. Fuck.
So Perry, we want to thank you for coming in. Last couple minutes is all you. Shout outs. What keeps you?
Dates, anything? We'll give you a couple minutes to say what you got to say. Thank whoever. If you got any dates coming up, I know you're busy. If you got something going on campus you want to tell people about, or open classrooms or anything, man. Last couple minutes is all yours, man. It's kind of like the Grammys, you know. You're just like, thanks, Mom.
Let's see. I don't know. So where I'm at in my life right now, where maybe you guys can be there. So I'm planning another ritual for myself for a few months, which I hope to make another transition in my life. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I know that I'm kind of moving into a new phase of my life. And so that's coming up, but I don't know what date. Probably going to happen. Who knows? But just in terms of my own personal transformation. I mean, there's other stuff, but that's all boring.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so,
well, maybe afterwards we can talk about that experience, get you back in, and then talk about the religious journey. Like you said, that would be a whole nother episode if you're down for it.
The religious progression would be very thought-provoking. I'd be into that for sure. For sure. No, you're very insightful. You're very intelligent. You're a very busy man. I understand that. I know it's not easy. You're going to estuaries. You're grading papers. You're in and out of classrooms.
Still researching other stuff that intrigues you.
Yeah, you're a busy man, and you got metal shows to get
And you
to.
have multiple kids at home, like you mentioned, and a wife.
So I'm just very thankful for your time. Thank you so much, Mr. Perry. You are a gentleman and a scholar. On that, I think we'll go ahead and sign it off. This has been a thrilling episode of the Days Grimm. My name is Brian Michael Day.
My name is Thomas Grimm, and this has been Dr. Perry Burnett.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you.